very much, Jess, and what a series. A fantastic one right there. I know, Chance, you were saying prior to that game that this could be so important. Battle for avoiding relegation, battle for the top 4. Unilad, they did it.
Yeah, no, they did it. They were great. And again, I think that search and destroy really set them apart, right? Like they win both of those, and it's massive because not only do they get the tiebreaker to put them in 4th, but again, you think about the teams that are behind, if they make a massive run, like we might see Splyce getting relegated, especially the way they've looked, which has not been great. There's the potential for it. And you want to talk about a team that has a downfall. That is a Titan that just completely drops off.
It's a weird one, right? I mean, we can go ahead and break the series down, of course, starting with the first hard point, which of course Splyce did take. But Phil, you know, the year starts, Splyce is in a grand final, right? Yeah. And as a European, you know, we're sat there going, all right, great, yes, you know, European representation. Yeah, very hype. Since then, it's almost as if they're going backwards. Now, all of a sudden, you look at where they're going to potentially finish in the Pro League. I mean, Chance says the word relegation and Splyce. They're 2 words which, at the start of the Pro League, we never had pinned together. Yeah, and you know, I've been hanging out with my cat these past couple of days, obviously, kind of trying to regain from Atlanta, and well, that's not going to help. I mean, you know, probably not, Ben. But on a non-Call of Duty side of things, we've been hanging out. He's just being, you know, he's frustrated, and you can kind of tell that. But he tried to change something. The one thing I liked was after game 1, he was standing up, he was fist pumping, he was getting the energy flowing. And I think that's what Splyce needed. Right. What Splyce didn't need was, of course, this final result, and we're obviously going to break this series down. But I like what I saw from map 1. You know, Mad Cat, you know, started very strongly. Tommy had some phenomenal kind of individual moments, but again, it's frustration. It is frustration, I think, for these Splyce guys, because you come out, you start on map 1 like they did there, and you let it get away from you. And I don't know what needs to change. Maven said, obviously, on the casting side of things, you know, what happens, yeah, if they work it out, great. If they don't, is it a roster change? Like, who else is there? You know, who can step it up? Who's not here? The talent at the moment is limited, and I worry for Splyce a little bit on that side. I think a lot of people currently worrying for Splyce. A fantastic map 1 from them. Of course, you saw the stats there. Smokestacks in particular, I think it was 62-0 Splyce outscore Unilad, and at that point, we're kind of all sat there saying, all right, this is probably going to be a 3-0. Splyce looking good. Splyce looking... No, you not me. You didn't think a 3-0? Well, you had Splyce. I mean, there goes all of our predictions. I think Chance probably predicted like a 3-2 to Unilad or something. No, he had Splyce. He had Splyce. He had a comfortable Splyce win. And they were your words right there. But anyway, either way, we go over to a map 2. And again, Chance, Splyce early on looked good here.
Yeah, there's always the potential for the squad, but I think ultimately it came down to just the 1v1. I think the only really true one that we saw, Unilad comes out on top, and I think that's the big thing. And from the situation to Jerd, his teammate falls and he has bomb. And I think generally speaking, what we've seen in like the league and all the open events so far, the higher percentage play for the person on offense is planted at the site you're at just right away. Yep. Because a lot of times teams like are concerned they don't want to get instantly traded out, like they pick up 1 kill. The information initially goes in the hands of Jerd, but instead he goes over to A. And yes, he does get the bomb down in that 1v1 situation, but it was either Scraps or Wuskins, one of the twins, just makes the read on him and then just wins the kill after that. And that's just something I think a lot of players could probably think about what to do in the 1v1 situations. I just think at the time we've seen now, it seems to just tend to go towards if you're on offense in a 1v1 and the other guy's somewhere across the map or you don't even know, don't expect him to just bull rush the site, because like if you're just pre-aimed in any random direction, he doesn't want to randomly lose. Right. He'd rather play for information. If you get the bomb down right away, yes, that player has the information, but if he's not likely to be near you, maybe you have an advantage. But that's not to say Jerd played it wrong in the slightest. I just think that was the round that really could have decided the game for either team, because it was very closely contested both ways. First bloods were about even, clutch rounds were about even, and that to me was just the difference maker. Well, Unilad, of course, they tied up after the Search and Destroy win. That takes us over to CTF Game 3, and it wasn't a high-scoring game by any means, Phil, but it was Splyce who controlled it. Yeah, it was, and again, you know, it took a little bit of time, and I think we saw this kind of be the same in the first series. Sometimes it takes that first kind of minute, 2-3 minutes to get that first flag, but when it does, you can kind of start to see things roll in. Forest, a little bit different. Again, I think Splyce played this a lot more correctly, and I think that's down to kind of the assault rifle. I loved the listening that we went to on this one, because again, it was not only Mad Cat kind of dropping numbers, you could hardly hear him because he was so focused on that, but it was Splyce kind of coordinating and sounding like a brilliant team. It was like, right, I've got mid, they're being impatient, yeah, 2 players got left, 1 player got, and it was great. That was the Splyce that I saw, and that was the Splyce that we all love.
And then we continue in the series, which we're going to dive into. But I don't get how they're so hit and miss at the moment.
Right.
First hard point, great. Could it be better? Yes. First CTF, or the only CTF, of course. They were great. I love watching this. I think they were outclassed Unilad in every single way. But then we move on, and this is what it mind blows me.
Yes, I mean, you make a great point, right? They win the first hard point. Hit and miss. To your point, it could have been better, but it was still it was a great performance. The search and destroy, a little lackluster. The CTF almost flawless, to be completely frank. But then the game 4 chance, it could have been maybe a different team playing.
Scraps said no, though. Scraps just had like a monster game, and he was looking like, I think what was on the Barrows Hill, Splyce is in control, and they have potential to, you know, extend their lead by another like 20 points or so. And that's when Scraps like picks up a 3-piece, and he's out here earning streaks. Like even from the start he had, I think he started out like 4-0 or something like that as well. So I mean, he was very consistent from start to finish. But I think ultimately, what was it? The barrels to crane rotation. I think Unilad, just as a team collectively, won both times. Obviously, the first time it helped Scraps getting the 3-piece, but the game is relatively close, and then those final 2 hills, Unilad just completely opens things up, and they blow out to like a 70-point lead, and then at that point, there's nothing Splyce to do. So again, the key gunfights were obviously huge, but the farthest rotation we really have on this map, from barrels to crane, Unilad just does a fantastic job on, and of course, the streaks from multiple players did not hurt.
The times we're going to see Splyce in like a grand final, or Splyce in a top 3, or whatever it may be, is when you have Jerd playing his best. The 2 SMGs for Splyce should not be both at the ratio that they're at. They're way too talented to be doing that against the team that they're currently playing, obviously being Unilad. Yes, credit to Scraps. Not going to take that away from him. He was fantastic. But for Splyce and Jerd and Bance in particular, when they are that kind of aggressive, that fast-playing SMG, that needs to be better. Again, you got to have off games. No one's perfect.
Of course.
But it wasn't good enough. It wasn't kind of... It didn't feel like the same team as we saw in map 1, which was a heavily SMG kind of map, being Valkyrie. But I don't know. I really don't know how that went away. Give the credit to Scraps if you like, but I do think that was a bit of a poor performance from Splyce.
Well, you know that they forced the game 5. Of course, we go over search and destroy USS Texas. At the start chance again, back and forth from both teams.
And the story is kind of similar to what we saw in the first search and destroy as well, where I think it just kind of came down to one round. And for this one, it's technically a 2v4, but really a 2v3 that I can't even remember who the 2 players were. Scraps and Moose, I think it might have been, that pulled off the round deep into the run. And here it is, actually. The important thing about me in this round, yes, Scraps gets the pick on Jerd, who's sniping in the back, but Johnny actually trades out his own life just because he gets the stick. If he doesn't stick Bance perfectly in that situation, then there's zero hope of that winning the round. So I'm not quite saying luck, but luck was definitely the factor just to hit that sticky grenade as well. But trading that kill out plus hitting the snipe on the back, and that's a round that Splyce should have won, but instead they find themselves down 2 rounds, and then of course the streaks come in. Moose is sneaky with the streaks. It's like we're mind blown on how he even pulled it off, but the streaks just piled up, and there's a couple rounds where Splyce just kind of gave away free first bloods as well. There's one round where Bance tries to plant the bomb wide out in the open. They don't use any sort of smokes. They don't even really have cover, and it's one of the freest kills in the world that I think it was Wuskins is ever going to get from the back A plat. And then another round where Bance gets first bloody because he gets killed by a glide bomb over on the B site. Yes, he is mountain, and maybe the information isn't quite there for the person calling it in, but at the same time, just play inside. You don't have to give up your life for free. Of course, it's difficult to deal with the streaks, and I think, again, a bit of a closely contested game, but Splyce just made more mistakes, and then, of course, the clutches just went the way of Unilad.
Yeah, last thing to touch on was the adaptation from both Search and Destroy. Splyce go 2-0 up in both. And Unilad do react, and I think they react very, very well. And I know I've discredited Splyce for quite a lot of the series, but I do think the Search and Destroy from Unilad just in general is very good. They adapt quick. It's not like 3 or 4 rounds. It takes them 1 or 2. And I like that from Unilad. And I think this has always been a great S&D team. And I think that can push them on. That can actually find them playoffs.
I mean, let's not forget just how strong the Unilad squad looked in the first 2 weeks. A couple of results don't really go their way, but hey, that's a hell of a way to start week 3 for that squad.